Hello and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter. That's a very kind wave, Adam.
Yeah. Hello. Hello, everyone.
Very shy entrance. Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. Your wave threw me off. The whole
I'm sorry,
intro,
man. I'm sorry.
but we're just going to stick with it. Like we said, we don't edit here unless we absolutely have to.
Off the cuff, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Very authentic. Today, we are reviewing the new Fantastic Beasts movie. In case you weren't aware that they're still making those, they are. The third one just came out this past weekend. It's been a while since the second one had come out, but this is Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore.
Ooh.
Adam, would you like to tell the people, without spoiling either one or two, what The Secrets of Dumbledore is about?
Yeah, if you haven't kept up on the series, I'll give you a good context here. So The Secrets of Dumbledore. Professor Albus Dumbledore knows the powerful dark wizard Gellert Grindelwald is moving to seize control of the wizarding world. Unable to stop him alone, he entrusts Mazzy zoologist Newt Scamander to lead an intrepid team of wizards, witches, and one brave muggle baker on a dangerous mission where they encounter old and new beasts and clash with Grindelwald's growing legion of followers.
And what might that have to do with Fantastic Beasts, you might ask? Wonderful question. It doesn't, except for when they really, really need it to.
Hey, it's not as bad as the movie
title of the. No, it isn't. I did look it up. 2018 was when The Crimes of Grindelwald came out, by the way.
Really? So 4 years ago?
It's been 4 years since the last one, and the second one was awful.
It was.
So it did lead people to kind of wonder, are they going to continue making these? I know there was like a planned 5-movie series, and then the second one sucked, and then it just 4 years without one, and then all of a sudden last weekend we got a new one again.
Yeah, well, there was also issues with casting for Grindelwald. If you guys aren't aware,
there's a lot of controversy around the people involved with this movie.
The first movie was, oh no, I'm going to forget his name.
Johnny Depp.
Well,
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell. Thank you. He's in the first one, playing like a hidden Gellert Grindelwald, and then Johnny Depp shows up at the end. And again, this is the first one. This isn't a spoiler. He is Gellert Grindelwald. He's in the second one. Then he had some off-screen issues.
Yeah,
I will not comment on whether or not they were right or wrong because there's another party involved there that is. It's a whole mess. So he was fired from the series or resigned. Yeah. Or resigned, you know. So they've added Mads Mikkelsen is now the new Gellert Grindelwald. And I'm sure we'll get into that as far as performances and stuff are concerned. But there's been some contractual things going on with this movie. I'm sure it wasn't easy to replace that character and make sure it was the right fit and all that sort of stuff. So
also Ezra Miller's got all kinds of personal issues going on. J.K. Rowling, we all know about that. There's a lot of stuff attached to some of the people involved with this series. I will say my personal enjoyment of this series is basically ranked by whoever's playing Grindelwald.
Yeah.
By how much I prefer that actor over the other.
Well, and how well they're written. Number 2 was written so just all over the place.
Yeah.
Things are shoehorned in when they shouldn't be. Things are added or detracted when they shouldn't be. And it just kind of feels like it jumps around a lot.
Sorry, I was going to say, we always forget, or almost forget, I should say, because we do it eventually.
Eventually, it comes up.
But yeah, like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us wherever you get your podcasts, hit the bell so you can get notifications for when we have new content, all that jazz. It really helps the channel grow, and we really appreciate it.
Yes, indeed.
So should we continue with our kind of discussion of the series as a whole, or should we dive into the actual movie here?
Let's get into what this movie, what works for this movie instead of going on a tirade about the excuse me, about a tirade.
We don't need to spend
the series.
30 minutes talking about what a dumpster fire aspects of this series have been.
Yeah. So what do you want to say first? What do you think worked well in this movie?
Well, I think it's better than either of the other two.
Okay. What makes you say that?
I felt like it had more of a purpose. I should say I don't hate the first one. It just kind of, I rewatched it a couple weeks ago, and it just kind of felt really flat and sort of like, what are we really doing here? It has kind of a weird mix of, oh, it's Fantastic Beasts, so it's about Newt, and there's these creatures, and it's kind of fun in that regard, but then it sort of introduces the whole Grindelwald thing and makes it clear that that's what the rest of the series is really going to be focusing on.
Yeah.
So I do kind of hold it a little bit against the first one, where like they just basically pulled this title because of the Fantastic Beasts books from the books, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is a offshoot, tiny little skinny book that J.K. Rowling produced with Quidditch Through the Ages when the original series, the original Harry Potter series, was coming and getting super popular and all that sort of stuff. So that's what this is based on.
I also just hate the way the first one looks. Like, how often do you watch a movie that's set like back in the 20s or 30s or 40s or something and just feel like it's not interesting to look at? That's just me, at least.
It's grimy and kind of dingy and like up and coming, like industrialized New York City, which is fun. I rewatched it like a week ago, and I didn't have as much problem with that with number one the first time, or since I went through it again. So
that's interesting, because it got worse for me.
Really?
But again, that was because I think just because I knew it was coming, and the second one is atrocious. But one of the things I really like about The Secrets of Dumbledore is it feels a lot warmer, and they just kind of let the characters lean into more like human and like touching moments that just helped me connect to them a lot better. I felt like it just took me a while to connect to everybody. It felt really forced in the first movie to me. And it's just warmer here. And I think there are some cooler moments of just like cool magic, or the occasional moments of awe, that I didn't feel in either of the first two. And I did feel that here a little bit more. Plus, there's a little more Hogwarts, which of course is just kind of cash grabby and like nostalgia baiting. Yeah. But you know what? We grew up with Harry Potter, so I like when they have scenes at Hogwarts. Sue me. Those are the things that I really liked. And I did like Jude Law as Dumbledore. I mean, we can get more into the performances later, but just kind of some more of that Dumbledore wisdom. This movie just feels warmer and lighter on its feet and a little more assured of itself.
Yeah.
Than the other two did for me.
I think this one's really getting into like the meat of the, I was going to say trilogy, but it's supposed to be a 5-movie set. So quintilogy, if that's the word. And I think because of that, there's more to work with. There's more to do. There's more plot points that they can hit. There's more like backstory they can sort of add in preparation for 4 and 5 if those get made. I will echo what you said. I do think that this movie brought back the magic, like we saw in Harry Potter 1, where everything is new and cool, and like, how are they going to do this? This is really interesting. How are they going to show the magic? How are they going to, like, what spells are going to get cast? How are those going to look? Because I think if you've read the books, the original Harry Potter books, you kind of have it in your mind's eye of like what everything's going to look like. And then the Harry Potter movies did a good job of that. And then they went in number 1 and 2. Everything just kind of looks like a gray blob as a spell, or like a gray jet of light. Everything's just the same, and you can't really tell.
You mean like 1 and 2 of Fantastic Beasts?
Yes, 1 and 2 of Fantastic Beasts. Sorry. Everything just kind of looks, excuse me, the same. And it looks like a standard gunfight in a movie, and that becomes boring because this isn't what that's supposed to be. This is magic. It's supposed to be interesting and conceptually creative. And I thought this did a really good job of bringing some of that back. Even the Fantastic Beasts that are in the movie are a little bit more stylized or a little bit more colorful. And there's just more to look at and be awed by, which I think this series needed. It needed like a breath of fresh air to say we are distinct and we are different, but you're still going to get the aspects that you used to like that really drew you in the first time, especially for non-book readers.
It felt closer to the world that we know.
Yes.
I mean, and it's supposed to be the same world, but the first couple, especially the second one, like you said, it's just gray. It's cold and distant, and it didn't make me want to live there like all the other movies did.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to be there. Last thing I will say that worked for me really well is there is a sequence in the middle of this movie involving a prison break that I found hilarious.
Yes.
And was probably my favorite sequence in the entire series so far. So if you do check out this movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. It might even be in the trailer, involving Newt. I thought it was great, and that elevated this for sure for me.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say about what worked is the humor in this movie, because it does feel a little bit more lighthearted, actually hits. Like, I giggled a lot through this movie, which I didn't do in the first two. I thought like, oh, that's cool, or oh, that's haha. But like, this one actually made me laugh out loud and go like, oh, that's cute, or this is hilarious, or look at how they did that. That's a funny way of doing it.
I think having Jessica Williams really helped in that regard too. I think that was I really liked that casting choice.
Yeah, it needed it. So before we gush too much, let's get to what doesn't work.
Sorry. Gonna throw up our fun little image here for those of us, for those of you watching on YouTube. What doesn't work with Fantastic Beasts, Secrets of Dumbledore? I mean, it's got some of the similar issues that
problems.
The first couple have. I mean, it didn't go from mediocre, bordering on bad, to like great all of a sudden. In my opinion, it went from like okay, bad, better. Like, this does feel like an actual movie to me, but there are still some things. I mean, the plot is kind of nonsensical at times, and they do come up with an actually creative reason for that, but that doesn't make it that much better to watch at times, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the ending of 2, which this would be a spoiler, but if you haven't seen the second one, Ezra Miller's character, Credence, and I'm going to forget his last name now, I'm going to have to look it up. Credence Barebone is discovered to be a Dumbledore descendant of some sort. And that, if you've read the books, if you watched any of the movies, and you're really into Harry Potter, which I would imagine most people who are watching this movie are, that's kind of disappointing, because one of the whole cruxes of the end of the Harry Potter movies is that there's only 3 of them. You know, there's only 3 Dumbledores. There's Albus, there's their sister Ariana, and then there's Aberforth. And they just are plucking and adding a 4th one in here. And it's like, all right, well, we already had established like backstory for this character, for Albus Dumbledore. Why are we adding new stuff? But it is a nice way, not nice. It is a decent way to get one story to connect to the other one and cause some strife, for why there's, you know, this power struggle and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I generally agree with you though, where it feels unnecessary to me. I mean, it's not like they added it in and then it like made future things not make sense. I mean, it was just kind of a blank space that they threw this huge thing in. And I just don't feel like it's necessary. Also, just the whole Ezra Miller's character, he's just not interesting to me at all.
Besides the first movie, like, he could have died in the first one and it would have been fine.
And there's a lot of focus on him. I mean, not quite as much as the 2 movies before, but he still features here pretty heavily. And I just find his character really dull. I think Mads Mikkelsen brought a lot to the role of Grindelwald. It's certainly an improvement over Johnny Depp, but I also just kind of find his character pretty bland. I mean, even we look at the last movie titled The Crimes of Grindelwald. He doesn't really do anything like the entire movie. Does he even actually commit a crime?
No, but his entire plan is to like wipe out Muggles.
No, I get it.
You know,
but
he's Wizard Hitler. This is set in, you know,
that's another negative 30s. For me.
Like, we're starting to get into World War II and creating those parallels, and it's like, I understand. Like,
I mean, we understood it when it was more subtle but still pretty obvious in the original Harry Potter series.
Yeah.
And here, like, the imagery and the fact that it's like late 30s, we even go to Germany in this one. And it just feels so like they're just really slapping you in the face with it. And I feel like it's just a bit too much. Like, we all get it. We can have a bad guy doing these things, and we don't need like just such obvious imagery to be like, hey, did you realize that it's Hitler?
Yeah. Like, well, I think we'll get into that a little bit more as far as the who is this for section. But I would agree. It does feel a little like, all right, we've gotten 2 movies of this now. We're aware of the time period that we're quickly approaching and what is going on in Muggle real world events at the time. Like, we don't need to draw so many parallels.
We see your fascist overtones.
And just like one of our last episodes, or I think one of our upcoming episodes, I relate a lot of those things to what's going on in the world at this moment, and it actually has some decent parallels for how fascism becomes popular, why it becomes popular, and a lot of these, like how you get a whole horde of people on your side to do horrible things. So
it's not a bad, he's not a bad guy. He's just very obvious, which
yeah.
I could do with a little more subtlety, but you know, we are where we're at now with this series. You want to move on to the performances?
Sure. Oops, I'll let you go.
Oh, that's
and speaking of which, Ezra Miller, right there.
Picture of Ezra Miller. If you're listening,
and Emma Watson.
Podcast, we can just describe. There's a picture of Ezra Miller and Emma Watson here for the performances banner, but he's fine. Whatever. I don't even really want to talk about him much.
17th century vampire. This movie, it would feel
or like
authentic.
a wannabe like magician.
Yeah. Well, and those are essentially disgraced 17th century vampires. They dress like it. So
pretty much the same thing you're saying?
Basically. Yeah. If you've seen one, you've seen them all.
Yeah. He's whatever to me. Like his character just sucks. So I enjoy Eddie Redmayne in this. I enjoyed Jude Law as Dumbledore. I really, really liked the addition of Jessica Williams here. I haven't seen her in too many movies. I just, remember when she was on The Daily Show, and then she's been in a few things since then. And I just thought she was really entertaining, and her character fit. And like kind of her and Eddie Redmayne and the guy that plays the Muggle. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's Dan Fogler.
Yeah, Dan Fogler. The three of them plus Jude Law just really added to the warmth that I felt with this movie. It's just much more inviting, and all of them sort of hit those notes really well for me in making me connect to those characters and just want to actually spend time here. We've set a very low bar with the first two movies of this franchise. So the fact that I had four actors here that just made me not want to turn the screen off or leave the theater or whatever, however you want to phrase it. I appreciated their performances. And of course, Mads Mikkelsen, light years better as a bad guy than Johnny Depp.
Yeah. For what I'll say, as far as Jessica Williams is concerned, I liked what she did. I did have a moment of like bothersome, or she bothered me a little bit. She speaks in this like sing song, like rhyming tone, and it's cool when you meet her. It's a great scene when you meet her, and then it just kind of continues. And I was like, oh, we're doing this the whole movie, and I noticed it, and I started to be like, all right, let's move some dialogue along. Let's not keep doing this shtick over and over. But eventually it grew back on me because that's just the character, so you can't really hate that. Right. So I liked that. Eddie Redmayne has been the one constant in this movie. He's always been good, and he's a very, very believable, awkward Newt Scamander, Hufflepuff. Like, I value loyalty and that type of stuff over, being brave or being always the smartest person ever, which I think is why he's palling around with a Muggle the entire time. I thought because this movie has more, it knows more what it's doing. It knows more what it's about. It's easier for the characters to feel more comfortable. So I think that helps play into this.
I agree with that.
And in that, I think Jude Law does a better job in this movie than in the second one. He also appears to be
he's kind of the main character of this one.
He's the main character. And I mean, like in the Harry Potter series, he always has a plan, right? He's always working behind the scenes and pulling strings, sort of. And that kind of comes up in this movie more, which helps that character look more wise and become, relate to the Dumbledore that old Dumbledore that and then the last thing I wanted to say, as far as Grindelwald is concerned, I think Mads Mikkelsen does a great job. I don't hate Johnny Depp in the role for the sole reason that to me, he looks more evil. He looks and acts a lot more of like what you would expect from a traditional villain and somebody who really wants to take over the world and kill a bunch of people. He just looks insane, and he kills that in the second movie. That doesn't mean the second one's good, but I thought he did a good job at displaying that. And then in this movie, when we have a transition away from overt evil to more behind the scenes, or like trying to politically gain power as opposed to just killing people and violent gaining of power, I think Mads does a great job transitioning that. I think they've all done, we'll include Colin Farrell in that. They've all done their bit. And I think if we're going to believe that Grindelwald and Dumbledore had a relationship of some kind at any point in this series, Colin Farrell and Mads Mikkelsen are the ones that you can believe, like, oh, that makes those people are quote unquote beautiful enough to say, yeah, that would make sense. Johnny Depp looks insane. So it's like, where did you find the attraction or whatever you want to call it? So I like that Mads Mikkelsen kind of looks the part and he acts the smarter counter to Dumbledore's intelligence as well.
Yeah, I like that point where I could not see what Johnny Depp was doing in the second movie would not have fit here, because this is about Mads Mikkelsen kind of like trying to sneak in and gain political power and like trick some people.
You game in the system.
And yeah, and seem saner than he really is. And Mads Mikkelsen is perfect for that. Whereas Johnny Depp was kind of playing a cartoon character, I think.
Yeah, he's the more overt evil guy, you know?
Right. He's just doing evil things and he's cackling while he's doing it. Kind of. He's enjoying being a villain. Whereas Mads Mikkelsen, you can feel like the hate and the danger like bubbling under the surface and the deceit, but he's controlled in a way where you can see. I found it more believable how that version of this character would rise to power.
Yeah, especially when you compare that to how Hitler rose to power, how fascism in Europe became to be such a popular idea. It wasn't a overnight thing. It was a long, slow burn and build to success. And him gaming the system and gaining the political power in order to do the things he wants to do or have the legal authority to do those things, I thought was done beautifully. And it, again, mirrors what happened in America in the last 2 decades, or more recently, the last president. And if you equate that to how fascism is rising across the world, I thought it did a good job of kind of showing you that it's not a quick change. It happens slowly.
Yeah. Want to move on to who is this for?
Indeed.
Yes. Who is The Secrets of Dumbledore for? I will say there were only a few people at my showing, but I saw it like in the middle of the day. And there were some kids like around like 8 years old or something. And the beginning of this movie is kind of scary and kind of violent. And it was surprising to me. It doesn't feel like kids would enjoy this until kind of the like Dumbledore's plan kicks in, and then it gets a little warmer and a little zanier. But the beginning of the movie has some dark stuff. Like we see some deer getting killed. Magical basically you're seeing deer getting killed. So, I mean, I would be aware of that for parents taking their kids, which is kind of interesting given like the sort of, not that this isn't like a family friendly movie necessarily, but, there's a little more blood here and some scarier stuff than I think we've seen before in other Fantastic Beasts or Harry Potter movies. So I would just be aware of that. I mean, if you didn't like the first two, I think this one is a step up. But if you're just kind of out of it at this point, well, then you're probably not even watching this review or listening to this review. But I mean, if you want to do well, I think this is a step in the right direction. Yeah. So this should please most Potter fans to some extent and Fantastic Beasts fans. I think this is a step forward. But if you're not into the Harry Potter thing at all, like you're not going to jump on for Fantastic Beasts 3.
Yeah. To echo that point, I think this movie or this series fits into a different type of movie rating than the Harry Potter series did. Harry Potter got darker towards the end because obviously there was a war going on, but that was, that's a children's book series. And by and large, this is an offshoot of that. It has to fit in between this is a family movie, and also they're allowed to tell a slightly darker, grittier, scarier story this go around. I actually would love to see both Harry Potter or the Fantastic Beasts series done as a very violent, very like real adaptation, and to see how dark and scary it can really get. But this kind of does a fine line of it's a family movie, but it also is trending in that direction where it is getting darker and it's not necessarily for kids anymore. I would say like your preteens, this is going to fit right in. It's just the right amount of dark and stuff that I think kids can handle that that stage. This is rated as PG-13.
That's what I was just going to check. I mean, that seems right to me. There's nothing here that gets into the R range, but it's more just like if they're under 10, I'd be a little careful. I mean, you know what your kids can handle, but just be aware that there's some scarier, a little more violent stuff at times in here.
Yeah, I would say book readers of the Harry Potter series are going to like this. If you've read any, I would say, fan fiction or any other Harry Potter stuff and you're still big on it, I would say this is for you. With all of the movies, there have been gripes from fans, book fans, movie fans themselves. There's been a lot of gripes with just not only the Harry Potter series, but these movies that have come out, the Fantastic Beasts series. I know when we went to the Harry Potter movies back in college and that sort of thing, we walked out like, I loved it, but this was wrong. This was wrong. This was wrong. This was wrong. And there's some of that in this series, a lot of it in 2. But I think if you are a fan of Harry Potter and the magical world that has been built, if you've gone to Disney and gone and checked out Hogsmeade or I was going to say the London station. Oh, goodness.
Platform 9 3/4.
Thank you. I'm trying to think of the Disney or
King's
the Universal.
Cross or whatever.
King's Cross. Yeah, King's Cross station. Thank you. If you've done any of that stuff, I would say check out this series. Check out this movie. It does trend upward. I thought 1 was fun and a little whimsical. 2 was bad. And this is getting back on the horse. And there's more to do now. It feels like this movie is the start of the final part of the trilogy or the quintilogy. It feels like these 3 movies, 3 and maybe 4 or 5, were really what they wanted all along, and they just added some fluff at the beginning, which I could have done without. If this is the start of if the next 2 movies are going to be as good as this one, I say definitely check it out. I enjoyed it. I think that's who it would be for.
I'm curious to see if Crimes of Grindelwald just ends up being the death of this franchise, because if it went from 1 to just 3, which honestly it could have.
Yeah.
I mean, the plot there's not a lot in 2 that even carries over to here. And I feel like maybe they did that on purpose.
Yeah, it's a filler movie.
But if you take out 2 and the quality of like 1 and 3 were just there, I feel like it would be fine. But like 2 was so bad and it was 4 years ago where it just felt like it was dead. And then you got this 4th one that came out and people are like, oh, it still exists.
Well, and that may be why they gave it 4 years time to like cool down from how just atrocious.
I mean, I'm sure COVID had a huge
massive
impact on that too.
But maybe that helps in this regard, because I forgot that 2 had come out. I actually didn't even see 2 until last week. So I watched it right before I watched this. I was like, okay, well, at least like now I'm back in it. You know,
it's not making as much money as they had hoped. I feel like there's a lot of people that have just kind of moved on, but we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, if you've watched 1 and 2, watch 3, see how you feel about it, and then I would say, then jump off the train if you don't feel like it's going to work. I would say give 3 a chance.
So, ready to get into the stars?
Indeed.
All right, we will be back in a few seconds. Okay. So again, for you people on YouTube, you saw our little image there with our star ratings. For people listening on the podcast, we go 1 to 5 stars. 1 is terrible. 5 is a masterpiece. 3 is a good, solid movie, kind of average, right in the middle. So I can go first here.
Sure.
I am going to give this 2.5 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
I think it's the best of the series so far. I think the first one I think I had as a 2 and the second one as a 1.
Wow. I'm surprised you're so low on the first one.
Like I said, I think I lowered it after seeing 2 then like rewatching 1, just like there's not enough here to justify more of I don't know. Yeah. I think this movie's solid. It's fine. I don't think it's great or anything, but it's kind of a positive 2.5 because they're moving in the right direction. Whereas like sometimes, it's all about expectations. I think I think the first 2, like I already said, the second one was so bad where I was thinking this was going to be terrible as well. And it was surprisingly enjoyable and watchable and fine. So 2.5 stars from me. I'm glad I saw it. Not great, but it was a good time.
Yeah. I'm slightly higher on this movie. Again, I think my perspective of this changes because I didn't watch 2 4 years ago. So I didn't wait 4 years to be like, well, now what? Like, oh man, I had this bad taste in my mouth from a bad movie for 4 years. I didn't have any of that. I watched number 2 last week, right before I saw this movie, like 2 days before. So I actually gave this a 3.5.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. And I say that because I think that matters, because I walked in, I didn't have the bad taste in my mouth. I walked in knowing exactly what was going on, and it picks up basically right where the second one left off. Like I said earlier, this one knows more of what it is and what it's trying to accomplish. So I think it's just a cleaner movie in the way that it's establishing its goals and it's meeting those. It's really driving its themes home, and it does those well. The fights are fun. There's a new element of like magical inventism, if we'll call it, or creativity in there that was sorely needed. One of my gripes to my girlfriend of the last movie of number 2 was that all the fights look the same, and they shoehorn in magical beasts that don't need to be there just to try to connect it to one. There's a lot less of that in this one. There's still magical creatures that get put in there, but they're for like plot purposes. And it's like, oh yes, we've established that this creature exists. We will now use it like we intended. And it just feels like there's some stuff that's paying off. And it is trending in the right direction. If they make 4 and 5, I will go at least see 4. This has given me enough goodwill back to the series to check it out and stay with it. Probably rewatch, because I'd like to go back and watch 2 again. It was bad as it is. I walked out of this theater. I laughed a ton. I walked out of the theater like, that was a good movie. I will keep going. I'm also a Harry Potter nerd, so it's up my alley. So that helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, 3.5 for me. I will see it again, and I'll tell my parents to go see it. That's something that they're, the first couple were on TV for like the last month, basically. And it's like, if you want more, if you want to live in a Harry Potter world, or you want to really dive into that stuff like some people do with Star Wars or Star Trek, or other big IPs, like you get more. I'm happy we even got another series in the Harry Potter universe, so this is icing on the cake. So 3.5 for me.
Awesome. Got anything else, or otherwise we can just wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up. I'm good.
All right, I think it's my turn to put a wrap on the show.
Yes, it is.
One can never have enough socks.